There's 8 billion of us on the planet these days. Do we really need more useless consumers? Hey guys, it's me, Devin Harrington, the average Gen Xer. Welcome back to the channel. So today is Father's Day in the US. I am sick today, not feeling well, got a nice stress-induced cold sore right under my nose. It's been a long week, no makeup on, I'm a hot mess. What can I tell you? But here we are for this week's post. And today, we are going to be looking at some posts from regretful fathers, and there are a lot of them out there. These posts are all from the Regretful Parents subreddit. And please keep in mind that we don't look at these posts to shame or hate on these folks in any way, but rather to bring to light a subject that so many people who post on these subreddits tend to say no one warned them about. No one told them how hard parenthood was going to be, what a slog it is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's important to talk about this kind of thing, to read these posts and spread the word so that people can make a more informed decision about becoming parents. So let's get right to it. Our first post is just called Regretful Dad. And he says, so let me begin by saying that I'm a father of an 8-year-old son, and I think it's important to note that I deeply love both my son and my wife. We have a comfortable life, and under no circumstances do I have any intention of leaving. They always have to, give this blanket statement at the beginning about how much they love their kids, and it's like they have to prove that they're a decent human being by saying that they love their kids, even though they're about to go on and say how much they regret having their kids, which is fine. That's what these forums are for. But it's kind of sad that people feel so much guilt talking about how they regret parenthood, that they always feel they have to come right out and say, I deeply love and care for my children. And, anyway, so he goes on. That said, I struggle to my core on a daily basis with a deep discontentment with the choices that led to this comfortable life, none more so than that of becoming a parent. My wife and I married right out of college. Well, that was your first mistake, sir, because right out of college, what, 22, 23 years old? If you got a graduate degree, maybe you're 24, 25. The human brain does not finish developing until 25 or 26. And I swear, like, that's why people in their early 20s do the dumbest shit. I know I certainly did. Back in the Gen X days, there was a lot of dumb shit going on. But this guy is saying he got married right out of college, which, used to be the normal age. I know my parents were in their early 20s when they got married back in the early 70s. Nowadays, you don't need to do that. You have a much longer life expectancy. If you really want to get married, you can, spend your 20s having fun and then get married. Anyway, I digress. He goes on. We married right out of college, and before marrying, we'd agreed that we both wanted kids someday. At the time, I had a Hallmark movie picture in my 20-year-old mind of fatherhood. Afternoons in the park, teaching my kid to play soccer, going to his music recitals, that sort of thing. Just, this is why people have kids, because they have this picture in their mind of these great moments that are going to happen. And it seems, according to these posts, that so many folks don't think about all of the horrible things that goes along with parenting. Nobody dreams about changing nasty diapers. Nobody dreams about being puked on by an infant. But those are the things that happen far more often than the Hallmark moments. He goes on, as so many of us men do, I matured later than my wife, and by the time we were discussing having kids at age 25, so young, I knew this wasn't what I wanted at all. I'd come to realize that those picture perfect moments I had in mind are rare gems in what is otherwise a couple of decades of frustration and exhaustion. Yes, he actually got it. He realized it. And that wasn't what I wanted for myself or my wife. I expressed my change of heart to her, and to be frank, it broke her heart. Motherhood is all she wanted, and she wanted it desperately. Ugh. And these people are in their mid 20s. This is so sad. Like, as a child free person, how sad is that? To tie yourself down, to get married and have children when you're in your 20s? Like, really, I think you should have to be 30 years old to get married, or at least, 26 when your frontal lobe finishes developing. To get married and have kids, that should be the law. Like, global law starting today, you've got to be 26 years old, and you have to like fill out an intelligence test and answer multiple choice questions on child rearing. You got to take a course, I mean, if only, right? He goes on. In the end, it felt wrong to withhold motherhood from her since we'd been in agreement when we got married. And so we had our son. I spent the first few years hoping that my love of parenthood would catch up with my love for my son. But I've long since come to grips with the reality that I despise being a father. Despise. That's a strong word. I generally dislike my kid, and I catch myself more and more in quiet moments dreaming of what life I could have lived had I made different choices. In parentheses, he says, I know that's not helpful. No, it's not helpful, but that daydreaming is helping him to go on because he's living in his little daydream world where he didn't get married and didn't have kids, or at least waited till later in life. He continues, I have given up on nearly every dream I've ever had: world travel, a successful music career, various lifestyle choices, to name a few. All for the sake of an 8-year-old who cannot and does not appreciate the gift that his life is. Of course not. He's 8 years old. What the fuck? He doesn't care. He doesn't, he didn't ask to be here. I spend every waking moment of my day, 365 days a year, feigning happiness for my family when all I want is an undo button. And I suspect I'm struggling with undiagnosed depression. Probably so. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning just so I can have a few waking moments of peace before the daily grind begins, and I have to paste on my smile for the next 14 or so hours. How depressing is this? I mean, and this is a guy who, it would seem, did exactly what you're supposed to do. Fell in love with a lovely girl. They got married. They had a kid. They're living a comfortable, happy life. It would seem that he has it all, and yet this guy is fucking miserable. He continues, I will never leave my family. I know the assumption is that it's easy for men to walk away, and I know many do that. But I'd have to dispute the easy part. No man with a sense of conscience or honor can put himself before the family that he chose to create. That said, if anyone here has had any success moving past similar feelings, I'd love to know how you did it. I don't want to be miserable for the next 10 years, and I'd like to learn how to like my family, not just love them. Sorry for the novel. Thanks for reading. That is just so sad. And so this guy his kid is 8 years old. It sounds like he was around 25, 26 when they had him. So he's like not even 35 yet. And he's just stuck. And obviously, the kid's 8. He's not even in a difficult phase. I mean, what is it all for? To see the kids grow up and get excited that they're leaving the house finally and you can have more free time. I mean, what is the point of that? I don't understand the point. I never understood the point. I'm like one of those people that was born knowing that I never needed to have kids. In my case, because I always felt like I was put here to help all the animals. In fact, the boys and I have a new foster pup coming tomorrow. I'm very excited. My first foster dog in quite some time. Um, and if you do any fostering or volunteering at animal shelters, tell me about it in the comments. I would love to hear it. It's a huge part of my life. Moving on to the next post, which is called I Hate Being a Dad. My wife and I met when I, 27-year-old male, was 21, and she, 31-year-old female, was 24. She said she wanted kids before she turned 30. Her being a nurse and leaning much into biology about chances and all that caused her to make that a criteria for the relationship. I have never liked kids, even though I'm good with them. Well, lots of people are. He goes on. I was young and in love and thought 6 years was a long time. I have never before thought about wanting kids. The possibility of not having them never crossed my mind because of how society is set up. I now know that not knowing if you want kids is the same as not wanting them, for me at least. And that is so true. If you don't have an instant, absolute, yes, I want to have children in your heart, in your mind, then you should not be having children. I always tell this story about how I had a friend who had been married for a few years and she called me and said, we're going to try having kids. There is no try. There's no try about parenthood. You either choose to have a kid or you choose not to have a kid. There's no in between. And you can't take it back to customer service if you don't like it. Spoiler alert, she didn't like it. He goes on. We now have two beautiful daughters. One is 15 and one is 2 months old. Okay. Or is he saying 15 months and 2 months? I don't know what this guy is saying. I think he's saying he's got a 15-year-old daughter and a 2-month-old daughter, but it could be anyway. But I have never felt so empty inside. We used to rollerblade, work out, go out, make love. Now we have nothing other than chores, work, and the interrupted sleep. My wife is happy. She gets a rewarding feeling tending to our children, while I only feel depressed over the life I've lost and the time for myself that I never get. Having ADD means I have very little energy. Usually, I use it all at work, which results in me striving to please my wife and kids, costing me so much mental health. That's another thing that you see a lot in these posts is the people talking about how having children has really worsened their mental health symptoms, or that having kids just doesn't go with their particular set of mental health issues. It's really sad. And if you have all of these mental health issues, why would you want to doom someone else with your genetics? I have a friend who comes from a family that everybody in the family has a tendency toward depression. I mean, hardcore depression. And he talks about wanting to have kids. Like, why would you want to doom someone to just to possibly even have a worse lot in the genetics? I mean, as a child-free person, I suppose it's not for me to know. I just will never know that feeling of desperately wanting to make something. But it just seems like an ego thing to do, I don't know. He goes on. I know it's my own fault. I know I should have felt deep inside myself and hopefully figured out that I didn't want kids, but I have never had anyone close to me have a child. I've never seen the sheer number of hassles that come with parenthood. The worst feeling is not knowing that if I could go back, I would. No, the worst feeling is the creeping feeling of resentment to the woman that birthed my children. Ugh. I can't help but feeling tricked, trapped, and depressed in this nightmare of a life I never wanted. Sorry for the long rant. I know some have it worse than me, but I just needed this off my chest. We have talked about this, meaning him and his wife, apparently. But that is that's the really sucky thing about having kids, is that this can tend to happen, that it destroys the relationship between the parents. They don't have the same relationship anymore, and eventually resentment sets in, and like this guy, he's just becoming more and more resentful of his wife because she wanted kids. It's just gross all around. Just terrible. Next post is called Just an Asshole Dad. My son is 6 and autistic and has oppositional defiant disorder and HDHD and ADHD, and Ritalin only makes him more aggressive. Holy shit. My wife is agoraphobic and disabled and does not leave the house and does not assist in parenting. What? Ever since the day he was born, every day since he was born has been incrementally worse than the day before it. He can't read. He's 6. Yikes. Can't read. What few words he does know how to read, he refuses to. He can dress himself, but he refuses to. He refuses to do any chores. He shits his pants at least once a week and then lectures me for wiping his ass, and he refuses to even do that. I don't believe in corporal punishment. Jesus Christ. This was my kid. I could not even. I could not even. I mean, you do see this a lot on these on the Regretful Parents sub. Is that a lot of the folks have kids that are on the spectrum or have various other mental health disorders, and I wonder, like, what percentage of people who regret having kids have kids that have issues like this. Not to say that your kid needs to have any kind of issues for you to regret being a parent, but it just seems like a large percentage of them have kids on the spectrum because they're even more difficult. I don't believe in corporal punishment. I don't support corporal punishment. I don't practice corporal punishment. But after 6 years of keeping this stupid, hateful idiot alive and only ever getting screamed at by him, I can understand people who do believe in corporal punishment. Oh my God. This person has the patience of a saint. He goes on, we've tried medicine, doesn't work. We've tried therapy, it doesn't work. He's on an EIP, doesn't work. School doesn't follow it, and he's only getting worse. We've asked for help from the state. They aren't giving it. One of these days, he's probably going to kill me. He's going to grab a knife from the kitchen and just bury it into my chest while I'm sleeping. By now, I've given up on him ever going to college, ever having a job, ever being able to live independently. My one goal in life is that when he does eventually stab me, I want to live long enough to take him to hell with me. Wow. Wow. This poor guy, I mean, he's calling himself an asshole because of the way he's reacting to his kid's behavior. But the fact that he does not practice corporal punishment, doesn't hit his kid or any of that, is miraculous, given what he's describing. I mean, that just sounds like a nightmare. I don't think I could live through one day of that. Poor guy. And he's saying his wife is agoraphobic, which means she doesn't leave the house, and she's disabled. He doesn't say how. And she does not assist in parenting. She assisted in bringing this kid into the world, and she doesn't. I mean, it really makes you wonder. Like, I want to go to their house and be a fly on the wall, you know? Next post. New dad, miss my old life. I never really thought it through if I wanted to have kids, and that is the most unfortunate thing that you read in these posts, is that people didn't think about it. And that's why myself and other content creators, I think, why we make this content, because people need to fucking think about it. You need to really sit down and have a good long think about whether or not you want to bring a new person into the world, and all of the work and hard, difficult choices that comes with. And people just do it because you can. All you got to do is have sex. Boom, there's a kid. He goes on, I was always down the middle, but my wife did want kids. My wife, 28-year-old female, and I, 28-year-old male, recently had our first son. And it has been really hard. And he is considered to be a good baby. He only gets up twice during the night. And he's 1 month old. I am dead tired and running on fumes. I feel my mental and physical health going down the drain. We conceived our son because my wife was not on the pill, but was using natural cycles, which is an FDA approved alternative. Wow, I've never even heard of that. Natural cycles? Interesting. My wife wasn't taking it as seriously as I had wanted her to, and sometimes I would use a condom when I thought it was too close to her ovulation. We had sex, and right after she told me she was 2 days removed from a red day, don't have sex, and lo and behold, our son was conceived. So it sounds like they're talking about what used to be called the rhythm method. Interesting. My wife said she would get an abortion if I really wanted her to. However, I knew she would resent me and it would probably lead to a divorce. I was by no means ready for my son, and I am currently in way over my head. I am tired and brain dead. I am starting to resent both my wife and my son, and I feel horrible about it. My son did nothing wrong, and I feel bad for failing him as a father. I know I am 50% to blame, but I now have a hard time trusting my wife, and I feel more withdrawn from her. I miss my old life. I miss the freedom and the ability to do whatever I want, whenever I want. I miss being able to sleep and take care of my body. I just wish I could have my old life back. I wonder if there's any other thing in life that that can so drastically change your life as having a kid. And having a kid is not necessarily difficult for a lot of people, you know. Like I said, bing bang boom, there's a kid. Nature kind of takes its course. But then the difference in your old life and what life is like with an infant is so drastically, starkly different. I wonder if there's anything else you can do, you know, in your regular adult life that can cause there to be such a difference out there. I don't think so. I mean, yikes. Okay, next post is called Any Dads Out There? Just wondering if there is any dads out there in a similar boat. I'm in my mid-30s with my wife. Life was amazing. Truly, truly happy. She always wanted kids. I was meh, but I warmed up to the idea. Big mistake, dude. After 3 years of trying, we had success. Within the first few days of him being born, I literally knew I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. He's 3 months old now, and I know we're still in the super shit stage, but not a part of me identifies as a dad, and all of me misses my old life so, so, so much. I've gone from loving life to thinking of exiting it. I've left out more detail to keep this post short, and for the record, I'm doing my best to be present and help every way that I can. I just can't imagine this being my new life now. I don't know what I expected. I was an idiot to not go with my long term gut instinct, and I take full responsibility now and doing my duty. I guess I just feel alone. Our kid isn't super difficult. My wife and I still have a good relationship. We're financially okay. It's like people reading this post are like, what the fuck is wrong with him? And that's exactly it. I feel just very alone, lost, a very lost and alone dad. And yes, I'm seeing a therapist. It's helping, but I don't know how much more I have to give. Ugh. And the baby is 3 months old. 3 months. I mean, a lot of that surely is, the lack of sleep wearing on this guy, but this is another person who just didn't really think about it, just kind of went along for the ride. Okay, we're having a kid, that's what you do. And there's no greater love than the love you have for your children, and blah, 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 blah. All this bullshit that society feeds you. So you keep breeding cogs for the machine. Sad, sad, sad. Okay, next post. Sad Dad Manifesto. And this is a venting post, and he is going to vent. I hate being a father. I hate spending time with my child. Saying it makes me feel like a monster, but it's true. It's frustrating, draining, and the least rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. The least rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. That's, the reward of it all is what people are sold by society in general. It's so rewarding watching your children grow. There he goes on. There's no sense of accomplishment, there's no pay, there's only tedium and exasperation. I know I can never be happy being and living as a parent, but my morality will not let me abandon my child. If I leave, I will hate myself and happiness would still be denied to me. I love my wife. I want her to be happy. Me leaving would destroy that as well. I've accepted that because of this, I won't enjoy much of my life for the long term foreseeable future. Probably at least until my child is an adult. I am resigned that this is my lot and existence. Ugh, can you imagine? He goes on, I am allowed occasional windows of happiness where I can be a person instead of a parent, where I can attempt to forget the role I hate and have the opportunity to enjoy something out of life for a few hours. Sometimes it's a date with my wife, sometimes it's an outing with friends. Those windows are infrequent and usually tainted by the guilt of either blowing money on a babysitter and abandoning my child with someone unfamiliar, or the guilt of condemning my wife to endure the tortures of parenting alone during that time. It's a constant temptation to get sucked fully into work and make that my life. Pick up additional overtime, further my career, live in the office, etc. A lot of men do that, probably without even realizing why. The justification of making more money and providing for my family is a siren song, a subversive call to abandon them under the guise of helping them. My morality tells me this is wrong, and I cannot allow myself to do it. I will spend time with my son, both for his sake and my wife's. I will work on the seemingly monumental task of not letting my despair crack through in front of them. They don't deserve me feeling this way. Some days are harder than others, and sometimes I fail at hiding it. I'll keep going, though. No moral to this story. Just wanted to get it off my chest. Thanks. God, it's so depressing. And this guy says, about men disappearing into work, and using that as an excuse to get away from their family. And I mean, that has been true from time immemorial, probably. It's just really wild to live in a time where people can post this stuff anonymously online and at least, like so many of these guys say, just get it off their chest. I mean, that's got to count for something. It's got to help a little bit. Back in the day where there was no outlet for this, there was a lot more, drinking, smoking, beating your family members, all of this, all the things that men did back in the day. Next post, struggling dad. And this is no advice, just venting. Since my wife and I got two kids, 3 years old and 1 year old, got two kids? You mean you had them? You chose to have them? Since my wife and I got two kids, I am 24/7 stressed and tired. I co sleep with the 3 year old and spending every free minute with parenting and cooking, except for one daily hour before I sleep. Well, no one forces a kid to sleep in the parent's bed. The parents have to allow that or not allow that. I mean, the whole co sleeping thing is weird to me, but what do I know? I sleep with two 60-pound dogs. So he goes on, still, people will only ask my wife how she is doing with the kids. Also, even women at work can't understand how having kids can affect my presence at after work beer events because why is she depending on me? It drives me crazy. If I come home after 5, I have major stress to get the meal ready, play, kids bathing, evening routine. How should my wife do this alone without getting burnt out and depressed? Two kids is a job for two parents. Please tell me if I am wrong. No, sir, you are not wrong. I mean, this guy is really really involved, and that's another thing that you see a lot on these subs. Unfortunately, still today, is that so many men just they donate the sperm and they're around, but they don't do much, and that's really sad. That it's the 21st century and women are still the default parent. But this guy and several other of these guys that we've read about today, they seem to be really involved and they are feeling the stress of it. It's just, this guy is correct. Two kids is a job for two parents. It is a full-time job. And like that other guy said, it doesn't pay. It's not rewarding. There is no reward to it except your kid growing up and hopefully not embarrassing you and getting the hell out of the house. I mean, there's 8 billion of us on the planet these days. Do we really need more useless consumers? This is our last post today for Regretful Father's Day, and it's called, Am I Really a Bad Dad? I never thought I'd contribute in a way like this, but I really feel like I've got nowhere else to turn. No one that really understands. I have a 17-year-old son. I had him pretty young. I was 18. And I'm grateful for it happening at that time in my life. But now I really wish I could go back and not have a child. His mom, my wife, I love dearly. Wow. So this guy got married and had a kid at 18. And I feel that the issues he's causing is pushing us apart. The same old story. You have the kid. Oh, it's an expression of our love. And then it destroys the relationship. He goes on, my son grew up in a very loving, family-oriented household. We provided for him as much as possible. It wasn't always a lot, but we did what we could for him. We did have problems, though. He got bullied up until around 13 years old, and it was a never-ending battle trying to work through all of that. I can only imagine what it was like for him. We supported him, tried different forms of resolution with schools, parents, police, etc. However, since a certain point in time, he's now developed this hard man exterior and is just rude, lazy, and arrogant with no real emotion or care about anything except being rich, owning expensive cars, etc., even to those he used to show kindness and love towards. I'm personally so close to throwing him out because I just can't stand the dark cloud that he brings everywhere with him. However, I know that his mom doesn't want this, and she's more than willing to put up with his shit for the sake of having her son around. The money side of things, too. God, don't even get me started. Daily text messages from him to withdraw from the bank of dad. And it's now at the point where it's almost a blanket no with every ask. There's no drive to get a job, no drive to do anything to earn a little money unless it's with his friends doing some questionable things. But that's a different topic altogether. Pretty much all of his friends work, and he's so focused on keeping up appearances with them and being the cool one, regardless of how it affects relationships with family. I think he sees his friends do whatever they want, when they want, and because he has some rules to follow, he's very rebellious. I've shelled out money for counseling, and although not thousands, it's still a big financial hit. I know all too well that this will pass, eventually as he matures, hopefully. But fuck me, it's so draining mentally to the point it's just borderline hate being with him. And you hear that a lot as well. People have kids and then they don't like who the kids turn into, even though they raised them, and they want to be away from the kids. I mean, it's just so fucking pointless. The whole thing. I realize that, we got to this point by people breeding and you know, generations going on and on and on. But we don't need to do that anymore. We got way too many problems and way too many people in the world. And if we would all just stop, I mean, here's my magic wand. No, here's my magic wand, my magic 4-color pen. If I could just wave this and get the entire world to stop reproducing for, I don't know, 10, 20 years, give the planet a chance to breathe, how glorious would that be? Let's finish this post. He goes on, I am just at that point that I don't want him around. I've offered him all of the support and assistance that I know how to do, and even opted to get the help of professionals, but it just doesn't seem to make a difference. It saddens me to even have thoughts like this because all I've ever wanted is to have a son to connect with and do things with. And now he's at the age where more of this is possible. The constant thinking that I'm just a shit dad is growing every single day. Well, you did raise him, and that's what happens when you knock some girl up when you're 18. 18, you're barely old enough to do anything. You don't know who you are or what you're doing or what your life, what you want out of life. And instead, you just get married, raise the kid. I mean, some people are naturally good parents, but for the most part, people don't know what the hell they're doing when they're 18. They're children. You're children having children. Having a child does not instantly make you a grown up. It's like when you get your first period as a girl, you're not instantly a woman. You're just, a 12-year-old that gets her period or whatever it is. It's just crazy how people think that because they can reproduce, that they're going to figure it out as they go along. And then when it turns out, I mean, this guy doesn't even sound like it's all that bad, but he is disgruntled and disappointed. And I think that's what a lot of people don't think about as far as having kids, is what a disappointment they could turn out to be. They often do turn out to be. Yikes. Big yikes. Anyway, guys, that's what I got for you today on this Father's Day. Hope you enjoyed these regretful Father's Day posts. And thank you so much for sticking around to the end. As always, you guys are the best. I love making content for you every Sunday. I so appreciate all your comments and everything. It's really great to engage with folks out there. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you in the next video.